Hello, magpies, and it's time for another reading from the Social Justice Player's Handbook, where I assign you a D&D class based on some arbitrary quality related to how you fight for or against social justice. You know, looking back, before we introduced the rogue, we took a rather black and white, heroes and villains approach to this meme. Just like in real life, simple explanations like this can be a user-friendly, entry-level way to start your engagement with social justice. But once you scratch beneath the surface, such simplistic analyses rarely survive first contact. As we saw with warriors, the difference between heroes and villains can be as simple as material conditions, opportunities, and the direction in which you swing your fist. But likewise, as we saw with rogues, sometimes the distinction can only be leveled against the act, not the actor. Thus, for the next 6 adventurer archetypes, we shall need a new category. Therefore, I introduce the Rogues Gallery. These characters defy normative prescription, aligning with good or evil causes according to their own self-prescribed ethical systems and objectives. I always advocate for a big tent, so you may find that these classes add a unique specialty to your party composition. Indeed, more people fall into these 6 archetypes than outside of them, so it is essential to understand their motivations. But at the end of the day, they are like the summer rains. You should appreciate them, but don't rely upon their arrival. First out of the gate, from the Rogues Gallery, is the Queen of Nature herself, the Druid. With no pun intended, it is her nature to tend to her circle, to help it grow, to flourish, and to mete out the wrath of Karen upon those who threaten her way of life. Her primary character trait is to play defense for her and her own, even putting others before herself as long as they fall within the circle she has drawn in the sand to indicate her clan. She makes a powerful healer, or a den mother styled party leader, and if she accepts you as part of her extended family, she will always look out for you and will go to war against anyone who threatens you. If anything, the question of right and wrong, for her at least, is a matter of familiarity. To a druid, it is always right to protect your own, and always wrong for outsiders to threaten the peace. But this underlies a certain simplicity of outlook. At the end of the day, there was a time when the druid looked inside herself and decided where she was going to put the line, and then took as a matter of dogma that no one on that side has any right to mess with anything on this side. But is it really fair to say that it was her choice when it's also a reflection of the environment in which she was raised? But the point is that regardless of nature versus nurture, she has fully internalized the battle lines to the point that she regards them as natural law, regardless of their real cause. But at the end of the day, she can turn this simplicity into a strength that she can utilize to create a better world, even if it is just for her and her people. It's just a shame, it's a crying shame that the world is too large to form a single social in-group for her to defend. Druids are obsessed with the idea of balance. This ties into her worldview of the greater natural world. There is both good and there is evil. Therefore, to have both is good, and to have too much of either is evil. This is a relatively sound idea among many world philosophies, so long as you don't stare too deep into the whirlpool. You could hypnotize yourself into thinking that balance is the natural state of the universe and that you should allow evil to occur, just because it's good to have evil. Maybe I should have given her a higher dexterity score, because druids are certainly capable of some high-level mental gymnastics. Perhaps it's not really representative to use my logical wizard brain to tease out a druid's positions, because, well, she operates more in the emotional range of beliefs, which is only really a problem if you're a self-styled wizard. Druidic magic therefore fully utilizes her emotional range and can turn it into a powerful elemental force when stirred up. When standing still, she is an immovable stone object, and when moving forward, she is an unstoppable gale force wind. Often the only meaningful difference between a Karen and a queen is just a matter of whether you're the one being protected or the one getting chewed out. Her weaknesses, I think, I have alluded to among her strengths. You're either on her side or you're not, and her reliance on such ideas as balance and the idea of inherent nature doesn't really leave much wiggle room. It is what it is, and you don't so much have to change a druid's mind as much as you simply aim to convince her that your larger issues relate directly to her smaller world. Thus, druids are usually very good with issues like climate change, but Caucasian druids in Western countries in particular are notoriously bad with systemic racism. When she feels that she is being attacked, a druid will invariably go on the defensive, and that, ironically, is her nature. So I cannot stress enough the value of having a druid on your side, especially if you don't have access to a cleric, which is why her critical weakness must be understood but not condemned. For the same mechanism that will make her side with villainy will make her an invaluable hero. Who are you to her? And what are your issues to her circle? How do they relate to her world? Woe betide the heroes who fail to answer these questions, because you better believe villains tailor their messages just for her. Heroes are groomers. Heroes are coming for your children with their trans ideology and their evil vaccines, they repeat. They whisper in her ear ad nauseum. The good news is that to vaccinate a druid against hating a group of people, all you need to do is make her care about one person in that group, and then she will defend them to her death. Big tents are good. Finally, we have the inverse of the druid, the ranger. While the druid is all about defending the circle she draws around her family, her community, or however she defines the natural state of the world, rangers draw their battle lines around the world in relation to themselves and their own wants and needs. Like druids, they are a very common archetype. They are the ambitious and the self-interested, the goal-oriented gamers, the enlightened centrists, and the edgelords, to whom the status quo caters its messaging. You may notice that druids and rangers share the same strengths and weaknesses, but in the wild they appear very different, and this is due to their critical character traits being polar opposites. While the druid will sit back and defend the camp, the ranger likes to hunt and to go after what he wants. It should be a pretty familiar archetype, intersecting with gender roles, I mean. When a druid and a ranger team up, they sometimes call it a nuclear family. So whatever problems you may encounter getting a ranger on your side are nothing compared to the problems you will have if you alienate him to your cause. The ranger's single-mindedness is generally material in effect. If it doesn't affect him personally, he isn't interested. He won't respond to something about people starving on the other side of the planet, but if you raise his taxes, you've got a war on your hands. Like with the druid, you need to tailor your messaging to speak to him directly. But while the druid is susceptible to appeals to nature and to protecting her environment, with the ranger, you've got to draw up for him a clear path to victory. His notion of balance is less about his relationship to nature as it is his conquest over it. To a ranger, he believes his positions are balanced because he arrived at them after considering both sides, and therefore any position that disagrees with him must be partisan and biased. Whoever most effectively appeals to his sense of enlightened sensibilities will find him far more susceptible than somebody merely appealing to the notion of a greater good. If I sound dismissive of rangers, it's probably because I have been dealing with these people my whole life. I used to be one, and if anything, I feel like it's the natural state of teenage boys, and very few seem to grow out of it. But however ill I speak of them, these traits do need to be recognized as strengths as well as weaknesses, because they show interest in the world, in learning and in absorbing new information. And they show a tangible hope that one can change their circumstances for the better. So I've probably said enough about their weaknesses, and fair enough, you don't really want to be dwelling on said weaknesses when dealing with rangers. If you call a ranger a racist, they're liable to go and support racists just to spite you. A soft touch isn't light enough when making a ranger confront his own privileges. You need a feather touch. Don't lecture them, just answer their questions. And remember, they want to learn too. At the end of the day, if you manage to bring a ranger into your tribe, well, meat will be back on the menu, boys, because god damn that boy can hunt. Thank you, magpies, and pursuant to this new direction, we shall continue our exploration of the Rogues Gallery. Next time on the Social Justice Player's Handbook.